All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our second refinement session for the upcoming SIG release roadmap. Though this meeting also adheres to the CNCF code of conduct, which basically boils down to be excellent to each other. And with that, we would like to jump directly into our mural board. Laurie, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. So last time we made a bunch of notes on the current workflow of the image promoter. We shared some context. We also kicked around some ideas about what to do. So I took those notes and I've consolidated them into a chart. And I also put some emoticons next to steps that were causing particular grief. And the clock shows where things are taking a lot of time. So, I mean, overall, the process is causing grief and deserves an angry emoticon, but these steps were particularly noteworthy to the group. So if we go to the table that's above, yeah, there you go. So what I wanted to get out of today's session for the group's productivity is that we figure out who might take on some of these tasks, although we don't really have too many people here. But overall, we have a lot of decisions to make and a lot of things to find out. And then also, we haven't really tied these goals from the image promoter back to the overall goal of making the whole artifact validation more robust with the salsa related tasks. So I wanted to see if we could do that today. And one of those goals from prior conversation was ensuring interoperability between tools. So we've only really focused on the one tool. And so I don't know what other tools we need to discuss. But as you can see from the table, there's already a lot to do. So maybe that could actually be discussed a bit later on.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
So the first thing we talked about that's time sensitive is tabulating how long things are taking for a given release. And we said that we would try documenting this for this week's release. So do we have that person running the release aware of this goal?
Yeah. We don't have, so we have another RC scheduled for later this week, and we have not found out who is going to cut it, but I could be around to do it. And I also volunteered for the final release where we could start in EU time zones. So we could just document the time, how long each step takes directly at release cut issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one thing. And then that data was going to inform various other decisions in the table. So you can see, if you can spec out other scenarios. And that was the idea, like based on how long it's taking for each step. Okay, what could we potentially look into in terms of changing this to make certain stages shorter? And then as part of that also was the next step, or at least the beginning of it, finding out why the run post K8s.io image promotion job step takes so long. There was an interest in making it a lot shorter. Some of the ideas kicked around were making it parallel or async, like exploring the options and trade-offs. Coming up with a target for how long it should take. And then this would impact decisions about adding mirrors. So I added the legend at the left shares what the different post-it notes mean. But basically yellow is more context. So we noted that it used to take 3 hours, but now there's a lot more involved in this process. And yeah, just some extra context notes. So it kind of all rolls up into like, what's this? How long are things taking? And what would be a realistic target based on that data? That's where the next line, the decision, comes up, like for the group to decide what an ideal length for a Kubernetes promotion would be. And I broke it down into steps. Like first, somebody would have to provide the data to the group. Then the group would provide their input and take a decision. The next decision listed is which release step is the best candidate for breaking down. And by that, I think, we meant like which step, if changed, could lead to the biggest positive impact. Then we get into the decision for the best approach for handling validating signatures. It could provide more data. Again, someone needs to evaluate different scenarios, provide pros and cons, trade-offs, and then the group does it review and decide on the findings. Related to that is deciding the decision, whether we need the step at all, needing the step of validating signatures from staging in parallel. The idea was floated to create a reconciliation job that would handle this as a regular CI task, but the group needs to find out if that could work. Then the next decision was whether to promote images that weren't built by Google Cloud Build, hosted and tamper-proof build system job triggered by Prow. Once again, evaluating, reviewing, deciding. Then this would relate to the changes image. It would change the images YAML for the image in that URL. Noting the decision step, which would actually have to be taken. And then there's a couple of spikes. How to split validating data from validating signatures, security risks involved in breaking down the monolith, checking whether we verify the image digest. Now I'm gonna cough a moment.
No worries.
Yeah, and so then after that, basically with more data, I think it would be possible to revise the process. But I wouldn't revise the process until there's more detail on these different steps.
Okay, sounds great. How did we end up with the whole fixing the signatures topic? That was not included yet, right?
It was discussed.
It was discussed, yeah. But
Yeah,
we decided that we want to roll out or iterate over the whole stuff before fixing it, or before attempting to fix it.
Yeah, these aren't necessarily completely in order.
Yeah.
These were just things that were noted to do.
It looks like a good plan from my point of view.
So my suggestion would be to find groups of 2 people to handle the spikes. Because I'm sure that those spikes will unearth data for some of these other discussions. It will help influence the decisions based on facts, what's truly available and possible.
Yeah.
Because they all relate to splitting the steps as well. So it'll help gain clarity, help the group gain clarity on how to do that. So basically just need volunteers to start working on these things.
Do we want to stay in the mirror board, or do we want to move it over to like I could imagine that we use for the whole effort something like a GitHub project board where we could convert like those iterative nodes into issues and then assign it to people.
Yeah, I think that just about the time to do that. I think it would help to give people guardrails in terms of how long to spend on such a spike. Like, how long would we want people? What would be reasonable? You know, usually you might say a couple of days, but because people aren't working on this full time in most cases, giving them an estimate of how much effort would be required. And also more details to guide them, like where to go, looking for data, anything that would help them get started. Whether it's links or something like this.
Yeah.
And it also might make sense to pair people up, like one release manager with one newer contributor.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. I think, yeah. I think putting everything into GitHub project would probably be the easiest way to move forward. And then we could directly declare those spikes as something like we could start with. And we could also, like, starting from this week and next week, starting with the data collection. And everything else is not doable right now. So I don't think we can do something like outline an enhancement or something like this. I mean, there was an enhancement about the artifact promotion and the signature promotion, but we need to put it into a new shape and find data we want like to measure, how we would like to measure the improvement at all.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want to do with those existing enhancements? Do you think that they're worthy of keeping open? Or do you want to completely redo them?
I think we could come up with a new enhancement and improve the current situation.
Yeah.
As is. Yeah.
I mean, when they're so big, it's just harder to finish. So if you can break them down into smaller parts,
Yeah.
they're just more achievable, and they represent less.
I mean, some stuff we could probably do right away. We could also say, okay, before we change the architecture, we do some, this could be one of the outcomes of the spikes, that we do some fixes, which provides us some more speed in CI, like doing more verification before the pull request merges and stuff like that. So small enhancements should be doable without writing an enhancement proposal. But if it comes about changing the way how we want to do it in general, then we probably should come up with an enhancement.
Yeah, I think in a spot right now, you don't know enough.
Yeah,
make
exactly.
the call. But yeah, like CI fixes, which might help the problem significantly, at least in terms of timing.
Yeah.
And any research you do, it has to be done if you want to do it well, then none of that is enhancement territory.
And after that, we could think about modernizing the release metadata, right? Or we
Yeah,
could
I mean,
yeah.
I think it would be great if the team could focus together on one goal.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel that we have the resources to work on two topics in parallel, honestly.
Not really, no. And it would go faster if the group is focused.
Yeah, exactly. And there are also some like day-to-day stuff, like calling updates and things like that, releases. Yeah.
Is Adolfo working on the some of this related to finishing the salsa spec, moving the salsa attestation to 1.0?
I think the whole effort kind of moved now into the wax thingy. But Adolfo also mentioned that he doesn't have that much time for upstream contributions as he had for like 1 year ago.
Right.
So it will, I don't know. We just have to, I think we already identified the most important topics, and we could also do something like outlining what we want to do with Salsa and Vex and stuff like that in parallel, but we can't implement it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what we could do is, I think Joseph had mentioned getting more information about Vex.
Yeah.
Who wants it, who needs it. So it could be a user research topic for now to then validate what we do.
Yeah.
And then also there was the user research question about who is using our tools currently. And that could help influence a few things.
Okay, how about we, I mean, the Salsa GitHub project board is empty, right? So we could just reuse the project board and say, okay, we rename it and say we want to modernize and extend the release metadata, and then we could also like put the notes we already have here, like evaluating who's interested in Vex and other formats, and which formats we want to support, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then
and then we create a new project board about the I'm not sure if it's just make artifact validation more robust, or it's more like, I mean, it's probably a good title, but it should also work in the end, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
well, I think that's like a definition of done criteria. Like you would come up, I mean, after you've done the research, you know exactly what to do, and then you figure out how the stuff should work. So what we could do is just agree to turn the spikes into GitHub issues, turn the project board into the project board for this topic. I could also log the decisions that have to be made. You know, just take every one of these rows and turn it into a GitHub issue. Put it in the project board. Give each one a priority. The highest priorities are the spikes. And the data collection for this week. And then go from there. And then like is the meeting at 6 p.m. today?
I think 7.
When I did the
7.
time zone checker, it came up as 6 p.m. for me.
Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe you're on a different time zone.
Yeah.
Maybe Berlin has changed. Yeah.
I live in the Munich of the future.
Back to London time.
Yeah. But maybe I think I could come and then just say to the group what we decided and let everybody know, and then.
Yeah, that's great. And do we want to prepare something in the meantime, or do we want to do it like tomorrow also? Just not to.
I mean, I could just show up later and say, hey, here's what we decided, and then we tell them we're going to start putting things in issues and boards.
Yeah, that's great. So this project board will basically turn into the.
Yeah, if you can just send it to me, then I can make sure that I'm in the right place.
Yeah, I probably can also create a new project board. I have to find out how it works. So if I have the right permissions, but I should have the right permissions to create a project board.
Yep, you should. You're goodness, for years. So
cool. Awesome.
Yep.
Do we have anything else we would like to discuss as part of this meeting? Anyone on the call?
On my side.
All right, then I will just do some paperwork, and thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you. See you later. Bye.